What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. It's Friday, one more day, and then you're to the weekend and play a bunch of games. But today, we have to talk about quite a few things. One thing got me pretty excited when I saw it online, and that was that Square Enix has at least acknowledged that the fans want Secret of Mana on the Switch. Specifically, that Secret of Mana collection, the thing I've been asking for a while now, because all they have to do is localize. We have to get into that. And we also have to get into a retailer who was not very happy about the Game Pass announcement having all of the new games from Microsoft Studios come to that service, to where you don't technically need to go out to retail stores to buy your game, because if you have Game Pass, you just get the game completely. So let's get started. So you remember that Secret of Mana remake that's coming out? It's coming out on the PS4 and the Vita. People were a little confused why it wasn't coming to a Nintendo platform, since Secret of Mana, well, it originated on a Nintendo system, specifically the Super Nintendo. And then, of course, we also had Secret of Mana 2 or Seiken Densetsu 3 that showed up in Japan only and never made it outside of Japan. It has from fans who have translated it, but not officially. And there is a chance that it could finally be officially released outside of Japan. Now, what happened here was US Gamer actually talked with some of the developers, specifically the producer for the Secret of Mana, the game for the PS4, and then of course they talked to him about the collection, and they seemed surprised at how many fans wanted this game on the Switch. And this is a direct quote from the US Gamer article saying, to kind of give background in terms of when the project started, it was about 2 years ago and the Switch hadn't been announced. Once we had announced this particular remake title, we were very surprised to see the amount of demand and feedback we received for a potential Switch version. So the voices are heard. We're aware that people are desiring a Switch version, and we will make an effort to see what is feasible in the future, though nothing is confirmed or planned. And this is from the producer Masaru Oyamada, and then they also went on to talk about the collection, saying, obviously our focus is on Secret of Mana since we're in the last part of its development. So obviously it's hard to definitely say that yes, we will release it, but we've obviously heard a lot of demands and requests for that game to be released in the West, and that's something we will do our best to hopefully achieve, but nothing at this moment in time. So I'm completely shocked that they were surprised at the amount of fan feedback about getting that Secret of Mana remake from the PS4 and the Vita over to the Switch. It doesn't sound like there's any kind of exclusivity or anything with Sony the way they were talking about it. It sounds like 2 years ago they made the choice to go with the PS4 because they weren't going to put it on the Wii U. Let's be honest here. The Xbox isn't exactly a Japanese RPG, even Japanese adventure game like Secret of Mana. It wasn't exactly a platform that's very kind to that. It doesn't sell well in Japan. So they turned around and said, well, there's the Vita, there's the PlayStation 4, that's what we have to go with. I do think if the Switch was around 2 years ago, the Switch would have also been thrown into that mix, since they are putting on the Vita that has an ARM chipset. It will easily go to the Switch if they want it to, because obviously the Switch is much more powerful than the Vita, but it's also going to be on the Vita. And of course the visuals aren't anything crazy spectacular. You can kind of look at it and see it like almost like what you'd see on like a cell phone, a mobile game, for example. Almost like kind of what like they did with Final Fantasy 2, I believe, on the mobile games, where it kind of has that same look. So it's pretty easy, I think, for them to move it over to the Switch. But of course, this is the same thing we keep hearing from other developers. The reason it's not on the Switch is because they didn't start developing it for the Switch years ago. The one I'm very confused about, and I cannot believe that it has not made its way out of Japan yet, is the collection, the Secret of Mana or the Seiken Densetsu collection that's currently in Japan, but not anywhere else. They didn't release it anywhere. And for some reason, I can't figure out why Square doesn't realize that there is, at this time, a pretty large population who wants those kind of games over in the West. Now, we saw it with Disgaea 5 sales. It sold better in the West than it did in Japan on the Switch. That's got to tell you everything you need to know right there. If I was Square, I saw those sales, I would have been localizing that thing yesterday. It's already done. You still have to translate it, of course, do all the text and everything. But for the most part, the game itself at a core level is designed and is ready to go. So yes, bring that over. I would rather have the collection than the remake right now. That's just me. I can live without the remake. Bring over the collection, because I really, really want Secret of Mana 2, again, Seiken Densetsu 3, brought out of Japan into the West. To get that thing at official translation, so we don't have to keep going on a fan translation. I think we all just want to see it officially released, and this is the time to do it. Bring it over on the Switch. It will sell well. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think about this whole situation with Square, I guess, underestimating the appeal of Secret of Mana to a Nintendo audience. I don't know either. I don't know. Next up, let's talk about Battlefront 2. Now, of course, massive backlash to this game, right? We've talked about it so much at this point, and hey, fans got them to change the whole microtransaction, got them to change the whole progression system. In fact, at this time, EA has released a statement on the website for Battlefront 2, specifically on EA.com, where they talk about how a new progression system is being developed and more information will come in March. Now, it was very clear from what we've seen that that progression system was built from the ground up to really influence you to buy microtransactions, right? They wanted you to have a competitive advantage if you put more money into the game. Fans not like that. EA ripped those out of there, and it's very clear that the game was relying on those, right? The grind is heavy still. People talk about it all the time. It seems like this progression system is going to be there to try to fix that part up. I guess make it either more interesting or try to have it so it's just cosmetics that those microtransactions are all about, and then you can do everything else normally otherwise, specifically, getting star cards and everything. And then they also announced a new season and then a new mode called Jetpack Cargo mode also coming. The real question is it too late for Battlefront 2? Have the fans made up their mind? Have the fans moved on? I mean, at this point, even Destiny 2 is just doing terrible right now, just doing a terrible job with a game that should be easy to sell. It's showing that these companies, Activision, right, with Destiny 2, and then, of course, EA with Battlefront 2, just trying to get just in your wallets a little more, and fans, I gotta give them credit, they realize it, they notice it. So both of these games are just having the hardest time because now fans have bad images of these companies seemingly trying to get one over on them. So I don't know, maybe it's too late, but hey, I've seen games before kind of almost rise back up from the dead, if you will. And maybe Battlefront 2 could do it if they just go all cosmetic with microtransactions and keep them away from the core gameplay and lower the price. They have to cut that price down for that game at this point. It has to go down to like $30 retail to get this game into people's hands, and then they can make their money back on those microtransactions. Overwatch does it all the time, and people don't really complain about it. So that's kind of the direction EA is going from now on with Battlefront 2 and Anthem. Anthem cannot have things affect gameplay when it comes to microtransactions. All right, let's get into this Austria retailer dropping, that's right, completely dropping Xbox consoles from their system. They have essentially delisted them. They will no longer be selling Xbox One systems, whether it's the S or the X. And this caught a lot of people off guard because, well, Game Pass sounded great to a lot of us, the consumers, but I completely understand why retailers do not like this announcement. I'm going to go over with you guys. I have a lot of experience in the retail world when it came to running stores, ordering through wholesale and everything. So I can give you guys a very clear-cut reason, clear-cut picture as to why these retailers are just not happy. So the Austrian retailer Gameware has been around since 1989, delisted Xbox consoles, and when asked, simply put, they said if you want to do business alone, you should do work alone. So what are they talking about? Well, simply put, when you order systems as a retailer, you are losing money on them, or you're making very small amounts of money. We're talking dollars. You have to pay to ship them, and even then, when you get them from wholesale, you're making like 18 bucks on an Xbox, right? But the shipping is like a couple bucks for each one, and then you're lucky to make $10 on something that costs $300. That's the way it is. The X, you probably make closer to 20 bucks. That's still a lot of money to put out for a very small return, very minimal. And most of them end up writing it off as losses when it comes down to it. Because of course the freight and shipping and if you got to pay your employees and stuff, you end up having those very high expenses that end up looking like, well, consoles or, a pallet of 12. That's pretty expensive for any systems. But what retailers tend to do is make up money on game sales. Specifically, believe it or not, I'm going to let you guys in on this, Microsoft actually gives the best margins to retailers, specifically first-party Microsoft Studio games. Which ones are going to Game Pass? First-party Microsoft Studio games. Sea of Thieves, the first one. It's coming out in March. Very short notice, by the way, to tell your retailers who probably already have their pre-order numbers in right now for that game that will be affected by Game Pass sales. So what's going to happen here is there's going to be a lot of people who just have Game Pass and they don't go out and buy Sea of Thieves, and these retailers will probably see much lower than expected numbers coming across their counter. They're not going to see the sales they would have if these games were not included in Game Pass. Sea of Thieves has been worked on for a while. It's been hyped up for a bit. We've been talking about it, well, for a while now. It's a rare game. So yeah, Xbox fans, we're going to go out and buy one of the 4 games that Microsoft is going to make, throughout the year. That, Crackdown, Forza, and probably a Halo. There might be Halo this fall, I'll just say that. But what's happening here is the retailer's not happy, and believe it or not, you might see some other retailers start to delist Xboxes as well, because the Game Pass move, consumer friendly, yes. Retail friendly, absolutely not. But you guys need to let me know, does Microsoft really care? Because they seem to be working away from these console generations, right? I think if they could, it would be all services and you would get your system from other companies, much like they sell Windows. Think about that for a second. Do you have Dell make the Xbox and then Microsoft loads their OS on it? I don't know, but I feel like that's kind of what Microsoft would like to do. All service-based, and they don't have to incur any of the cost of hardware. Retailers don't want that, though. So this is going to be a fight that's coming down to the wire here. And I'm going to tell you what, once GameStop starts to really feel it and they get mad and they do the same thing, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here with Microsoft versus the retailers. Next up, today Dragon Ball FighterZ came out in the US, specifically other places, not really in Japan. Japan's next week, as I said yesterday. But one thing that's been kind of controversial about this game is how you pronounce the title. Well, Bandai Namco told us how you pronounce the title, and it's kind of the way I've been pronouncing it, which is funny because a lot of people do correct me in the comments when it comes to that, because there are people on either side. You either pronounce it Dragon Ball FighterZ or you pronounce it Dragon Ball FighterZ. I remember when I was first talking about it, I was saying Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I was like, but the Z is part of FighterZ. I feel like it's FighterZ. So I said Dragon Ball FighterZ from then on. I was corrected here in their comments. Looks like it is Dragon Ball FighterZ. And people aren't even really that happy about it because, again, there are people who are pretty much against that. We say Dragon Ball Z. We don't see Dragon Balls usually. So I get where that is, but there is a space between L and Z. Either way, they corrected it on Twitter, and I guess they just want everyone to start saying Dragon Ball FighterZ. That's kind of what they've been saying in the streams anyway. So there you go. If anyone asks you, it's Dragon Ball FighterZ. In our last bit of news, we have 2 new games coming to the Switch. They were announced, smaller titles. You'll probably recognize at least one of them. The first one is Dead Cells. I like this game. I remember I sent a tweet to the developers when it first showed up on Steam in early access. I said, this game is great. You got to get it on the Switch, because I think that crowd would really take to this game. And again, Steam has become very overcrowded, and I think a lot of these games are kind of slipping through the cracks. Very cool. It's like a roguelike RPG style game, action RPG. It's very fun, and I like it a lot, so I'm glad it is going to the Switch. It's going to all consoles, Xbox One, PS4, Switch. No actual release date. All they've said is 2018. Now, the other game, you might actually recognize this one. It's Wild Guns Reloaded. Of course, Wild Guns was the game back on the Super Nintendo. They did the whole Wild Guns remaster, brought it to PC and other consoles. Now it is also coming to the Switch. They're also going to add 2 new characters, both Annie and Clint. And as far as I can tell, those are 2 new characters for this version. But we'll see. More information is coming. I'm going to be curious if they do anything with the motion controls, anything with HD Rumble, IR function, anything cool they can do with the Switch to add more functionality to it. But hey, there are 2 new games coming. No release date from what I can tell for either. They're both just 2018 titles, but it should be fun to see either of those. I think people will like Wild Guns Reloaded, and I really hope people pick up on Dead Cells, because if you see that pop up, I did a whole gameplay video a long time ago for it. Pick it up. I think it's completely worth it. Very fun game. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. Again, you guys have been really hitting the like button, and it has been helping the videos a lot. I think yesterday's got over 1,600 likes, which is really cool. So thank you so much for doing that. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below, guys, about everything we talked about today. I mean, I feel like you guys have to be as confused as I am about Square Enix completely underestimating the hype around Secret of Mana going to the Switch, possibly, because they seem to think that the audience wouldn't want that game when it originated on a Super Nintendo. Like, it's a Nintendo console, and I think all of us want the collection to come over. I have no idea how that didn't come over in the first place, but let me know what you think about that. And then also talk to me about the Xbox Game Pass retailer debacle that's going on right now. It's only one right now over in Austria, right? But it's still, it could spread. You could see other retailers start to do similar things when they realize, well, Microsoft isn't doing much for retailers. The third parties with their games are, and we'll sell those, but Microsoft just wants us to sell their system for them, and that's it. And we're not going to sell their first-party games that actually make us more money than other companies like Sony and Nintendo. Yeah, no, I don't think so. So let me know what you guys think about that whole situation as well, because this could spread and become a big deal around Microsoft's Xbox. If they're not in stores, on retailer shelves, it's going to be hard to get that install base up more. So let me know what you guys think about that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good weekend, guys. Get out, play some games, and enjoy your time over the weekend before, the grind starts back on Monday. But I will see you guys Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. See you then.